Evening, everyone. Just going live now. So, waiting for people to come on. We've got a cracker tonight. Here she is, about to come on. 1 minute. I'm just going to bring Jackie in now. Hang on. Hey, Ellie. Um, waiting. How is everyone? I am.
Hey,
How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm all right. A little bit sweaty, not gonna
Oh,
lie.
me too. Me too. Don't worry. It's so hot today, isn't it?
And you look naked on my screen, so I'm going to take that as a win.
Do you know what? I'm not. I'm wearing a boob tube, but you know what? Screw it.
Do
Leave
not
your
go with
pictures and
naked. Just
browse.
go with naked. Own it. I know. Do you know what? We've got a. I'm upstairs, so I don't get attacked by kids. And we've got this air conditioning unit, and it's like prehistoric and the
Yeah.
loudest thing in the world. But I've
Mm.
had to turn it off so that I can actually hear you. And so you gradually
Yes.
during the next half hour, I'm going to start dripping.
Okay. That's fine.
But anyway, how are you?
I'm good, Emma. I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good.
Thank you for
So
having me on.
what happened there? Okay, nice for you to be on. So anyway, It's Jackie, otherwise known as Jackie Big Tits. You know, there's an entry. There they are. Who basically there's a whole list of what you do from Jackie Big Tits podcast. What am I going to call my podcast? Jackie Big Tits. Okay, good one. And you've been on pretty much every BBC outlet possible, from Five Live, BBC Three, Things Not to Say. We'll come back to all that. And yeah, Metro journalist, columnist, and just everything from sort of, how will you describe it? What would you say is sort of your mission? And you've got all these different bits that you do, but what is the thing that drives you and the core of everything?
Well, that's a very good question, Emma. I think what drives me is making people's lives better. I think that I have, growing up, I struggled with like the way I looked, like being insecure about the person I was, and I know how like crap that feeling is. So what I want to do is make sure that people feel empowered in the people that they are supposed to be. And no one, there is no like one size fits all for who you're supposed to be. Whatever you look like, whatever your body's like, whoever you are, just embrace it. And I think for me, I want people to embrace who they are. We've only got one life on earth, and be proud of who you are. And it took me a while, but I finally got here. So if I can share some knowledge and help other people feel better about themselves, and that's the job done, I say.
Yeah, and on the obvious, because that's what you've named. That's the name of your podcast, and I've seen you on stage talking a couple of times and stuff, and you own it. And that's what was the journey? We'll start, the journey of kind of growing up and going, oh my God, these are massive. And how did you, that journey of like, I'm going to own them? Like, when did you get to that point going, this is it, I'm going to own it, and this is who I am, and I'm going to go out there and, yeah, call my podcast Jackie Big Tits?
Well, I think that like growing up, for like a good 10 years, I was like super flat chested, used to do athletics, basketball, netball, so sporty, just call me Sporty Spice. Next thing I know, I wake up on a sunny August and I've literally got double F's, and I'm like, hold on, what is going on here? Like, I was just so confused. I was like, what is this? And so, because at that time, I think I was like 11 or 12, obviously all my friends used to have what I would
Wow.
call like fried eggs. So I looked like a woman and I was still a child. And I think that at that time I was literally like, oh my God, I'm an alien. I'm a monster compared to all my friends. I couldn't wear what they could wear, because obviously my parents were like, okay, well, you can't wear this because you don't want to get attention from like men, all this kind of stuff. So I had to kind of like, I suppose, cover up a lot. I couldn't express myself as much as a kid. And I went through stages of completely hating my body. I used to wear my dad's big extra large hoodies just to hide. I just wanted to hide away because I thought I was like disgusting. I was like, what are these? And I also felt like, because I'm a child, you walk into school and you've got men stopping their cars and things like that, and you just feel like super hypersexualized. And it was like really weird for me. So I went through a phase of completely hating them to constantly exposing them, because I thought to myself, okay, well, I'm going to get attention. I wanted attention. So I thought, you know what, this isn't so bad. But I was using my boobs as a way of saying, like, okay, I'm all I am is my boobs. All I am is my body. Forget my personality. All I am is my body. I went through phases of hating it to then liking it. And then eventually, when I was about 17, 18, I kind of came to this moment where I was like, you know what, you need to accept the person that you are. Like, you know, I used to even try and like Google how to get rid of boobs because I was like, how do you get rid of boobs? But I was just like, did you cut them off? And I just got to this stage where I was about 17, 18, and I thought, you know what? Embrace it. It was like a kind of aha moment, like a kind of wake up, and you're like, do you know what? There's no point of me trying to force myself to be something that I'm not. There's no point. You know, I need to just embrace. And I think in a way, kind of feeling like an alien for like 17, 18 years of my life has helped me because I feel like it's made me realize that, like, okay, you know what, everyone is different, like no one is the same, you know. And then I get people saying, oh, I want big boobs, and you know what I mean. So it's like there's always something that you like don't like about yourself that someone's going to want, you know. So I went through that phase in my life where I just thought, you know what, embrace your body. It took me a while to get to a place where I was like, cool, I'm happy with who I am, but I got there in the end. And so then I was always JBT, Jackie Big Tits, like that was just the name for me. And I kind of took, you know, I embraced it. And then when it came to my podcast, I basically finished uni. So I studied to be a broadcast journalist. I finished uni and I worked in TV for a long time, worked on Bake Off and things like that. And then I was like, you know, I want to create, because I'm always talking to people about, like, you know, like what size are your tits, or like, I mean, like, always really nosy. Like even if I'm on the train, I'm like, oh, like, ooh, like, you know, like nice legs or whatever. I'm always kind of like,
I do that. You smell nice. Oh, I'm honestly, I sniff people. I sniff strangers.
Exactly. So I've always like been that kind of person. I thought, you know what? Why don't I use my voice? Why don't I express myself, and also help other people with whatever like dilemmas or problems that they feel they have? Because I always feel like when I tell people my problems, I feel released. I feel happy, and I feel like a problem told is a problem solved. And my mantra is, if I'm vulnerable with you, then you'll be vulnerable with me. And I feel like it's important to share stories, you know, good or bad. But I think bad. I like it when you meet someone, they're like, oh, I've been through the same thing. And you're like, oh, thank God. So I thought, you know what? Let me put this in a podcast. So when it came to the title, I was like, oh God, what am I going to call it? You know, I was like, okay, let me call it Jackie's World. And then I was like, sorry, but who am I? Like, no one's going to know who I am. Yeah. Jackie's World, give me a break. It's not like an e-reality TV show. And then literally there's this kook song called Jackie Big Tits, literally. And I must have been listening to it, and I was like, this is it. Like because it's like, I'm addressing the elephant in the room. When you see me, let's be real here, you probably see my tits too. So why not address the elephant in the room? And because that's what I do in my podcast. I address the elephant in the room. I'm very free talking.
That's the thing. It's all awkward conversations, isn't it? It's all basically talking about things that are just taboo, and just people are vulnerable and really awkward. So actually, if it's called Big Tits, you know, just by calling it that, it makes people just feel a little bit awkward.
Exactly. It's just super awkward when, like, I don't know, like if you're speaking to your uncle and he's like, oh, what's your podcast called? And you're like, Jackie Big Tits. And it's like really weird because it's like your relative. It's like, oh, it's awkward. But I come with like these tits. This is part of me. This is, you know,
and you own it.
Own them. And you've got to own it. I think the power comes from us. You know, I'm not going to try and seek validation from outside. Validation should come from within. So I hold the power about the way I feel about myself, and that's powerful. And that's how I want other people to feel, whether they've got big tits or not. So
yeah, and the moth, you've got the whole moth set up as well, and that's the storytelling, isn't it? So just tell us what that is.
The moth is like a story. It's a storytelling night that they hold in London once a month, and there's a different theme each month. So it goes from like family to graceful to fear, like different kinds of topics. And you go on stage for 5 minutes and you tell a story based on that theme. And I'm like the MC of the night. So in between people coming on stage, so 10 people will take to the stage. In between, I will obviously share my stories, things that have happened. So like, for example, like when I got like dumped, and like the next day I was in the moth show, I was like, wow, I'm just gonna turn these tears into content. So, you know, but again, you're helping other people whilst you're helping people feel vulnerable enough to want to come on stage and share their own stories. So 10 people go on stage, and then they are marked by judges who are in the crowd. And if they win, then they get to compete in the Grand Moth Story Slam, which they do once a year, where it's like in a big hall. Storytellers come stage. So it's really amazing, because I think storytelling is incredible, and everyone has a story. And
it's what gets passed down, doesn't it? And they say that they say that about brands and anything. It's like it's a story, and people
Yeah,
nowadays are getting much more. They're not going to buy something. They want to know the story behind it and the people behind it, and
exactly.
it's the storytelling that gets
Mm.
passed down and gets passed down and gets passed down, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
not some slogan or something. It's the stories.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. They're powerful. They're powerful. You know, people leave the stage and they're crying, or they come up to you after and
yeah,
they're like, "Thank you so much for sharing that story. You've given me so much courage." And you're just like, "Oh my gosh, like what?" So it's
yeah.
incredible, you know. And you want to
So
help people
on
feel
that
safe.
on that front, have you had, the last few weeks have
Mm,
probably been pretty frigging full on
yeah.
in your world, and
Mm,
in your life and what you do, and you
yeah.
do a lot on race and interracial dating, and you just racism in general,
Yes.
and feeling like otherism. So have you felt like sort of the last 2-3 weeks with
Yeah.
Black Lives Matters and everything that's happened, it's been heightened, and
Mm.
are you drained and exhausted from what's going
Emma,
on?
Emma, I am drained.
You feel like your soul's been sucked out of you.
Oh God. Do you know what it is? I think for a lot of black people, we have internalized this racial trauma all our lives, internalized it. So now everything's come to the surface. And there's been so many occasions where, racism has happened and your white friends might not have stood up for you, even though you've said to them, that was a racist incident. And so you've had to have these conversations many a times. And then it's like, oh, now I get it. And I'm like, what? How can you get it now? What's changed? And that's exhausting because it's like I've been saying this the whole time. This has always been happening, and now you're listening. But also I think it's hard because I had a lot of people messaging me apologizing. Um, and that was difficult because it's almost like I don't really want to hear your apology. I mean, it's like hard. I think for a lot of black people, I think that it feels like, if your white friend then says like sorry to you, as if like you should be like, no worries, it's fine. But it's so much more complicated. It's so much more complex because you're dealing with everyone talking about racism. I've never felt more black in my life right now because I feel like this is what everyone is talking about. And then people are awkward around you, and initially people were asking me loads of questions, and I'm like, oh, just use Google. I can't keep educating you. It's not. I shouldn't have to do this, but we've always had to do this, And then people are saying,
Yeah,
oh, I don't know what to say to you, and I'm like, oh goodness me. And in a way, I'm saying to my friend, sometimes it feels like I wish there was a school for like people to attend for black people, so you can just understand like how we're feeling because it's so much more complicated than what people think. And I think that I've had really good conversations with my friends, really, really good conversations and really productive conversations. And like, I'm glad that now people are talking about it. I just hope that people continue to do the anti-racist work because anti-racist work is work. It's not supposed to be easy and it's meant to be uncomfortable. So I'm hoping that
yeah.
people dedicate the rest of their lives to being anti-racist. And that's one thing
Because
I hope.
that's it, isn't it? It's kind of it's all well and good, and obviously I have no idea how
Mm,
you feel at all, but it's all very well and good doing sweeping statements and being we support you.
mm,
But it's like, well, what are you going? And it's not the same in any shape or form. So I'm not comparing it in any shape or form. But
yeah,
the only thing I know
yeah,
in that battle
yeah,
to educate is the sexism
yeah,
battle,
yeah.
and that just try to understand, and suddenly you get guys going, oh, actually now I kind of get it, and I'm kind of listening, and
Mm,
it's not even, it's not the same, but it's the
yeah,
only thing that you can kind of,
for
in
sure.
my head, in my setup, and go, well, I kind of get the battle and the not being listened to,
Yes.
and the years and years and years of trying to explain it and say that's not, and that's wrong, and you can't speak like that, and you can't
Yeah.
treat me like that, and then all of a sudden something happens, and they're
Yeah.
like, oh, and you're like, yeah, I've been saying it for 20 years.
Yeah.
you know
Like,
so
hello. Like
yeah,
people
so
waking up and it's like, ah, like you're kind of
yeah,
happy, but you're also like, okay, can you like just get on it and like don't ask me anything. I think
yeah,
it's been a really, really interesting time, very revolutionary time, as well as coronavirus being in the back of all of this. And in a way, I feel like if coronavirus didn't happen, I don't think we would be dealing with what we're dealing now. I think that now people are at home, they've got more time to reflect because black people have been getting killed for a very long time. This is not new. This hashtag is not new.
Yeah.
And so now I think that because people are at home and they've got more time, that they can really be like, oh crap, this is actually really bad. And actually, you were able to see the video of George Floyd being killed. It was there for you to see, so you can see how bad it is, you know. So in a way, I'm kind of grateful for coronavirus in a really messed up way, in the sense that people are now reflecting on things that they probably wouldn't have reflected on if we were all back to work and, you know, with the hustle and bustle. We probably might not have really.
But it's that every cloud, isn't it? I hate to say it. I'm a real every cloud person, and no matter what shit happens, or it can be the worst situation ever, and I'll try and find something that comes out of it that you can go, well, every cloud kind of thing, isn't it?
Exactly.
And on that, on the but on it as well, you know, when it comes to sort of KK and obviously with more sexuality and we've done workshops last year and sort of you know, a few little focus groups and stuff on the whole interracial dating and how we can be, you know, more diverse and inclusive and that complexity of the interracial dating side of things and the struggle on dating apps and the statistics on there of just by what you look like on a dating app, how much that's judged and how much that sort of fetishism of it and the over sexualization of black people, you know, from big black cock to twerking and you know, stuff that it's always just been a bit of fun. And actually look at it and go, it's not really cool, is it?
No,
no.
No. It's this is the thing. I think that it was more when I used to be on dating apps that you would get. I think black women are hypersexualized. It's almost like, you're exotic, you're different. You're not someone I would take to meet my mum, but I want to have a good time with you because this is new. You know, this is exciting. And this is the thing. It's interesting because black women are like, I think dating apps were deemed like the most like not desired category when it comes to dating apps. Like black women are in the lowest category. And it's interesting that people like I think that when it comes to dating apps, people are more brave because they're not seeing you in real life and they just say whatever comes to their mind. And obviously I've had instances where people have said like, you're really exotic, I hear black women are wild in bed, I've got jungle fever, and I'm like, what on, like you don't care about me, you're just interested in my skin, you know? And that is that's painful because I think people think that like, you know, a black woman is supposed to be like, oh yeah, amazing. And it's like, no, because a lot of it, I think, comes from porn, I think. Where, you know, I know there's the ebony category. And I think that like people, that's their experience of a black woman. So for a lot of white men, their experience of a black woman is through porn. So it's almost like when they see you, they associate you with that character. And it's like that, I'm a whole different person. I am not that character. So it's almost like they see you and they like hypersexualize you instantly. Like, whoa, like am I? And it's just horrible because I think that you know, I am a person, you know, like you can't just, I'm not a commodity for you to, you know, pick and choose or whatever. Like I'm my own person. I think it's really hard because as black women, it's almost like we feel desired, but we also feel rejected, you know, like it's like people like you because it's interesting and it's fun and exciting, but it's almost like not enough to actually want to be with you. And that's why I was done with apps, because I was constantly meeting people like that, or people saying stuff like, oh, I love black women because they've just got so much attitude and they're no nonsense. And I'm like, but how, like, I'm not, like, we are all individuals. You can't just group all black women under the same category. That's not very fair. And I think that as well is an issue, is individuality. You know, I think black people are not given individuality. Black women are seen as the same. You know, white people are not seen as the same. You're given individuality. But
and black men, it's like, well, they must have a massive cock.
Yeah, it's like,
you know,
and it's like, oh, like this is not. And I do think a lot of it comes from porn and also lack of exposure to people who are black. You know, it's like, and again, you can't spend your whole life educating people. It's so boring, Emma. I'm like over it. I'm just like, please,
don't ask me. Stop asking me.
Can you just see it, because I can't be asked anymore. But that's why I came off apps, because I don't want to be called exotic. You know, I'm not exotic. You know, I'm not.
It's like ticking a box, isn't it? But on the you know, as in a lot of it's porn, but I think also there's a lot. You know, if you look back through films and you look back through books and just stories, again, stories, it's often, it's the black girl who steals the husband in films, and the one that kind of comes into the village or comes in as a housekeeper, or you know what I mean? There's very much this kind of thing within that kind of fiction of books and films where a black woman, and they are, but even as a white person, it's, you know, and I've done it in that, you know, wanting to dance and I want to shake my booty like a black woman. It's sort of, it kind of, it's, you just do, you say it, you know what I mean? And it's something that you just,
it's definitely, this is the thing, it's definitely, the media perpetuates these stereotypes. That's the problem. And we absorb this, we absorb it all, you know, and before you know it, you can't even believe what's come out of your mouth, but that's what we're absorbing. You know, it's like black women are good for twerking and they're good for this. Thing is, Emma, I'm not going to lie, I can't even twerk. Like, I literally can't twerk. So what
I definitely can't. I definitely can't. I'm like a robot.
You know? And this is the thing, when people are looking for a show, I'm like, you're going to be disappointed because you're not going to get to work for me. But the media, the world that we live in is like, they perpetuate these stereotypes of black women and what they're supposed to be like. And actually, when we look back at history and slave owners, you know, sleeping with the slaves, even though they were married to white women, it's like, the black slave is like, you know, she's sexy and she's curvaceous and she's this and that, but not enough to be my, you know, just my secret, you know, just my sexy secret, my secret fetish, whilst I'm married to a white woman. This has been that kind of idea of black women just seen as like sexual objects.
Being the seductress kind of,
this is it and being this secret. It's always that's always been perpetuated, and it's so dangerous because people will then absorb it and then think, okay, well, black people are, you know, black women are all like this when we're not. I like to think that people do education and realize that all black women are not like this, but I mean, a lot of people don't. And it's annoying that you're having to then re-educate people. Or when people have said stuff to me like, oh, you're not that black, or like you're really, you know, you're really white for a black girl.
Yeah, you're not full black.
What on earth? Like, I'm like,
you don't act like a black person.
Yeah, and I'm like, sorry, how does a black person act? Like, this is the thing, there's no book, there's no, do you know what I mean? Like, every black person is an individual, and I feel like what we do is we fight for our individualism. I fight for my individualism day in, day out, because people, you know, that people are going to have preconceived notions about who you are based on what they've seen and based on what they've read. So I always feel that point to prove that I am just Jackie. I'm not whoever you've seen on the telly, you know, and that's really annoying because you have to keep like reaffirming yourself to people. Whereas I suppose as a white person, you wouldn't necessarily need to do that. You can just kind of exist. You know, people will judge you based on your clothes or whatever, or the way you talk, but they're not going to judge anything based on your skin.
They don't have the extra bias. It's that bias, isn't it? The kind of unconscious bias that's there. And but actually, there's so privilege that's there. But there's so many privilege. It's like black privilege, and then when there's female. You know what I mean? It's sort of, you're a female, so you tick that box of, you're black, you tick that box. But then you can, you know, you tick the other boxes. I spoke to someone last night and she looks at it and she ticks a lot of boxes that actually are privileged boxes. You know, oh, she's heterosexual. I can't remember the other one. So that's the way she, in her head, she doesn't focus on that bias boxes of, I'm a woman and I'm black. She looks at all the other things that actually she has privilege for, and it's sort of great. And actually, I'd never really thought of it like that. And actually, it's sort of, I always say there's always there's always loads of ways of looking at things, and if you can find a positive way to not focus on that negative, then
sure. I think that for a lot of black people, that is, in a way, it's like your own coping mechanism, because you know that we are living in a society, like racism is in the fabric of society. So you, I think as a black person, you have to reclaim your power. However you're going to do it, you're going to do it and you're going to take it, because you know that the world is not going to give it to you. So that's what she's doing. She's like, okay, do you know what? I'm going to take my power. I don't care. I'm not going to let anyone decide who I am. And I think that's a powerful and amazing thing. And I think that, you know, it's different for different people. You know, there's a lot of black people that won't take that route, and there's a lot of black people that might take that route. But I really respect that, and I think that's really great. I always say, you know, I'm not a victim, and I'm not a victim of racism. It's just one of those things that I have to deal with, unfortunately. But I'm a strong person, and like I know that I'm a great person. So I know that racism comes with being black, but I'm very sure of myself, and I hope that, you know, in future, that we won't have to be having these discussions. People will just be doing the anti-racist work, you know. And
Yeah.
I hope that a lot more white people in power speak for black people, because what we need is people to make room for us, you know. The only reason why people are listening now is because more white people and more white voices have spoken for us. That's the difference between now and any other time a black person has been killed. So this is revolutionary. What is going on right now is revolutionary. And I love being a millennial because we don't take any prisoners. We are not mucking about, you know. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So I'm hoping change comes from this. But I love that that's what your friend is doing. I think that's really great. We have to take, you know, you have to take your power because no one's going to give it to you.
Yeah.
So I respect that completely.
So that's the thing. It's like you know, it's again, it's not the same, but you know, people say to me about starting KK like 15 years ago, and in the sex world, and it's the man's world, and it's men were all sex, and you know, being how was it being a female? And my thing is, I never got the memo. I never got the
Right.
memo. I didn't even cross my mind,
Yeah.
and that's the thing, isn't it? There are but a lot of people don't work like that, and it doesn't matter the color of your skin, and it doesn't matter your sex. You get people that go, right, I'm going to get out there and own it and do my best and see the
For
positive in
sure.
things and take the power, like you
Yeah.
say. And then you
Always.
get ones that go, no, I'm going to claim the victim. And it doesn't matter what they are
No.
across all levels. They will see the worst and they will find a bit that they can just hang on.
Yeah.
And they look for that, don't they?
Yeah, definitely. I think I've never been a fan of the victim mentality because I don't want to be a victim. I don't. Why should I be a victim? You know, you have to. I think that like life is about choices, isn't it? And I think that, you know, I'm choosing to be a survivor. I'm choosing to be a strong person, despite the racism. I could choose to be a victim and just go, okay, well, my life is really difficult because I'm black and it is. Don't get me wrong, but I'm choosing to look at the positive things in my life, you know, and I'm still, and everything I do is because I want to also empower other black women, you know, who want to do whatever I'm doing, or they're looking for someone to inspire them. I want to be that person that, listen, you can break through these rooms, you know, like you can actually do that. And so I think that when it comes to race and you know, and power and privilege, as a black person, you just have to, you I think most black people are quite strong because you have to be, you know, if someone's racist to you, you don't have a choice. You got to handle that. No one is, you know, you can look to left and right. People can turn a blind eye because it's not their issue. You know, people, you can switch up, like, you know what I mean. You can, as a black person, you can't turn a blind eye. So I think that a lot of black people are naturally quite strong. You have to be strong to exist in this world anyway, but you have to be strong to exist in this world and be black and a woman. You know,
Yeah.
so you know what I mean. It's like the odds are already against you. So what you're going to
two
do?
cards
You're going to be a
dealt.
victim or you're going to be a survivor. You got to choose which
Yeah.
route you're going to be.
And
And
you
that's
did
life.
on BBC, was it BBC Three, the things
Yes.
not to say, and
Yes.
your thing with things not to say to a black woman. So what did you say on that? And especially kind of in the dating, in the dating thing, because, you know, as you say, in dating apps and dating world, you get guys hitting on you and they just want to tick that box, the exotic box. So on that, what's your advice on what not to say?
Well, I think if you are a white man or a white woman and your racial dating preference is black women, and that's what you like, which is amazing. Please don't say Nubian queen or African queen, because not all of us are African. So I wouldn't say that. I also wouldn't speak about our skin or our lips, because that's what people say. Oh, I love soft skin, and I'm like, oh, how my skin could be ashy for all you know. You haven't got a clue, you know. But people just have this, like, as soon as you start speaking about skin to a black woman, I'm telling you, you've lost them, because we are more than our bodies, you know. So I think don't speak about a black woman's body. Don't talk about curvaceous, and please don't call us Beyonce or Nicki Minaj, because we are not Beyonce or Nicki Minaj.
Yeah, you
Honestly,
look just like them,
I've lost count. I have lost count of the time someone said, you're my Beyonce, I can be your Jay-Z, and I'm like, oh God, stop it, Richard. Stop it now. This is embarrassing. Like, I think talk to a black woman like a person. It's really not that difficult, you know. I like, we are, do you know what I mean? It's like so simple. Talk to us like we are normal, because like I was saying to my friend earlier, as a black woman, I'm so used to feeling like other if you like, feeling different. I know I look different to all my friends. You know, I know that for a lot of my white friends, I'm their only black friend. So I'm used to always being the only black person in a room, even in my workplace. So I'm used to feeling different. So I don't want to then go on a dating app and someone else is making a point of the fact that I'm different.
Yeah.
I just want you to see me for Jackie, the person I am, get to know my personality. My soft skin and nice lips is a bonus, but that shouldn't.
Yeah, I wish. I mean, look, there's no upper lip going on there. I'm looking at your lips going, just give me your upper lip, all right?
But no, you've got great lips. But it's like, it should be a bonus. It's a bonus, but don't fetishize me. Don't fetishize black women. You know, we're not for you to pick and choose. You know, we're not pick and mix. Like me because you like me, and it's that simple. And I think that you know, people need to get this into their heads. You know, that's why I don't use dating apps, because I can't bear it anymore. It's too much. Oh my god, this is the one thing I can't stand. It just hit me just now. Is when I'm talking on the dating app and they say, "Do you like skinny white guys?" And I'm like, "Oh Lord." The combo was actually going.
Oh, I'm now getting caught. That's the thing. As soon as you said that, I just get the porn film visuals going on.
Honestly,
You know?
I'm just like, and the thing is, the chat's always going really well. I'm even thinking in my head, like, oh, this is going to move to WhatsApp in a minute. And then they've got to go and say that. And I'm like, I'm done. They're like, do you mind if I'm skinny and white? I'm like, I'm done. What do you think? The fact that I'm talking to you and we matched shows that, guess what? I don't mind. So why are you asking me? But it's things like that it's so boring. Like, I just can't be bothered to deal with that. You know, speak to black women just like you would speak to any other woman, with respect.
Yeah.
It's really that simple. Seriously.
And on the like interracial dating side of things and on apps and stuff, do you have what advice do you have on how, well, you're off the apps now, but are there certain things to sort of avoid putting, or that, you know, which are the things that will be picked up on by those people, like the skinny white people? Or what's your advice to people who just like you, or any kind of BAME community, or anyone that would be considered sort of minority in the dating app, to on how to put themselves across and how to be able to see the signs that people are just sort of fetishing on them? Yeah.
That's a really good question. I think that, for starters, we should never have to change anything for anybody. It's that simple. If you want to put that you like Take That and Lulu, then put that in your profile. You know, I don't think that we should have to tweak anything. Take me as I am, or watch me as I leave. That's how I say it. So nice. I think that as an Asian woman, as a Chinese woman, as a black woman, as a white woman, put what you want to put. The right person who engages with your profile will speak to you and get to know you based on that. However, I think that you should always, I think as soon as I talk to a guy and he mentions my skin, or he says, oh, you're just so hot, or all this kind of stuff, then that's when I'm like, no. Because, you know, and I think every woman knows when you're talking to a guy on an app and you can just tell what he's after. I mean, it's quite instant, you know.
Yeah.
You kind of know, you know, they put certain emojis and they don't even say hello. I'm like, oh Lord, you're one of those.
Straight into aubergine.
Yeah, as soon as you see the aubergine and the spritz of water, you just know what it is. You know what time it is. But I think that, you should never have to change your profile to suit anybody. The right person that sees you for who you are will see that and want that and go after that. I think that, you always have to be like hyper aware of men who might disguise themselves in the sense of, like, you might think that, you know, they're really interested in you, and then after a while they might make sort of they might make references about like porn or like your skin, and just kind of like what I do is I tend to vet people. I'll actually ask a guy straight up, have you got a fetish? Like, I will just go straight in there because I'm like, I need to know. Yeah. And most of the time people are like, oh my God, like, wow, how are you asking me? I'm like, well, you haven't answered my question, because I don't have time for that kind of stuff. Most of the time people are obviously going to say no, but for the fact that I've asked them, it just shows that, like, I'm a no nonsense person. So like, if that is what you're after, you're just not going to get that from me. I just think I think that as a black woman, I have to be upfront with people, because I think that you don't know what people's intentions are. Equally, you can match a guy on Tinder, and he could have a super racist family, you know, but just because he fancies you doesn't mean that he's not racist either. So you always have to vet people. And also, I would want to date somebody that I know that if someone says something racist to me in a bar, that person's going to defend my honor.
Yeah.
I don't think I could possibly date a guy who would allow someone to be racist to me and he just stands there and says, I don't know what to say. Like, no.
Yeah.
So
They're being
vet people.
secretive. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I have a friend who've been like, they've been a secret girlfriend for like a couple of years because they've been going out with a guy that's a Sikh, or you know, and
This is
or
it.
a black guy once a girlfriend of mine and didn't want to meet the family, and
This is it.
it's just, to me, is that you've got to be straight up, and if they're behaving like that, it's sort of, yeah, big
Yeah, and
warning sign.
we should never be a secret. Never. Never ever. You know, every woman deserves to be with a man that shows you off like a new Lamborghini, fresh out the car wash.
Yeah,
That's what we deserve. So like, why should I be a secret? You know, and I think that any guy that, you know, treats you like a secret clearly doesn't see your value. But the thing is, it's up to us to recognize that this person doesn't see our value and we are worth more in that situation than to leave. Although I know it's hard, it's
yeah,
hard once you're in it. It's really difficult to leave. But I think that, you know, most people get that moment, you know, that aha moment, that coffee moment where you wake up and you think, nah, F this, I'm done. You know, I deserve
yeah.
better.
And
But
on
no, yeah,
yeah. And on that though, harm moment, and it's not sort of, it's not necessarily a race thing either. But it's a woman thing. Is
yeah,
that your tips and hacks to just own it, to completely back yourself, and to know when just to walk away, and because we are so good as women
oh,
at just wanting to please and
oh
roasting
Lord, aren't we?
of like, yeah, no, and on that, of just, as you said, you know, with it's Jackie Big Tits, it's sort of what bits of advice for girls out there who just sort of, it's in the same rut over and over again, wanting to please this guy after guy after guy, to actually, yeah, go right.
Well, I think that you know, you can tell your friends about certain situations and they can give you advice and whatever, but it's down to you to like recognize that this situation is not serving you. I mean, I've been in a situationship for a very long time in the past, and you're telling your friends, and you know your friends are getting bored of you banging on about this guy, and you also know that you're bored of banging on about this guy, but you can't leave. But you have to find the strength to realize that this person does not see your worth. And I think that, you know, just because someone doesn't see your worth, it doesn't mean that you're worthless. You know, it's up to us to see our worth. It's all about validation. I think when you seek validation from people, you give them power.
Yeah,
Validation comes from within. You validate yourself. It's the same reason why, like, I'll say, you know, I might leave my house and like someone might, if someone doesn't compliment my outfit, I don't need their compliment because I know I look banging. That's why I'm wearing the outfit. You know, I'm not actively looking for validation. I think that when you're dealing with anyone in a situationship, you have to realize that you have to validate yourself and recognize that this person doesn't see my worth, and you need to realize when to go. Because the thing about situationships, I find as well, is that the situation doesn't move on; it just goes on. It just goes on, and it's going to keep going on until the person gets bored or you then wake up and realize. But I think that, you know, I talked about this in my podcast about you just have to realize that I always say, you know, what you are actively doing, you are choosing, you
yeah.
know? So you have to recognize that, okay, I'm choosing this. And why am I choosing this?
That's the thing.
And
Not enough people do the whole. They're all in, oh, this is happening, this is happening, and I'm a big sort of bitch slapper, and it's your choice. You're choosing to
you're
do it. You're
choosing,
choosing. So, you
you're
know,
choosing to
I
do
give
it.
friends about 6 months of whining about relationships,
This
and then
is
I'm
it.
like, no, no
No,
interest.
it's
Done.
because it's just like boring because you're repeating
Yeah,
yourself and you're like, I said this to you last Tuesday. You're
yeah,
not listening to me. So I think that it's down to you to then realize, okay, and sometimes I think people need to treat you really bad for you to then actually be like, oh hell no. No, 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 no. Why and then you have to ask yourself, why am I allowing this behavior? Because what you allow will continue. So you need to ask yourself, okay, well, why am I allowing this? And I think that when you start really unpacking all these things, you then start looking at the person like, you ain't shit. Like, why am I taking this? You know, but again, that's a journey and it takes a long time, but you have to be willing to leave something that is toxic, which is really difficult. Toxic situations are addictive, they're exciting, they're fun,
Mm.
But they also give you mad anxiety and mad stress. So you have to weigh up the pros and the outcome, the pros and the cons. You know, what am I going to do? How am I going to move forward with my life? But I think that as women, we're all going to meet dickheads. That's just,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? That's just life. And sometimes you meet people and they're not dickheads in the beginning, and then you realize that, oh yeah, you're a dickhead. But I also think that, we meet people for a reason. Everyone has something to teach you. So I think if you leave with a better sense of self, then that's not a bad thing. It's not. Oh, someone said same for guys. Yeah. So you meet some women dickheads, but yeah.
Yeah, and actually, some of the most manipulative. I've looked at loads of my friends and relationships. Some of the worst have been really manipulative females.
Oh wow.
But they've been insecure. It's been them projecting, but they've just gone down that, psychological abuse route on the guys. Which actually, I think women can be way more devious on that on that front. And you don't, until you're out, you don't realize that it's their insecurities and it's their issues. And
definitely. And when you come out, you also realize, like, you ask yourself, why was I doing that for so long? It's so crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you're in it, it's different. It's like, it's hard, but
exactly. Listen, I'm gonna love you and leave you in a minute, because I've just realised time-wise and stuff. Which this chat has been amazing. So we'll do when we're out the other side and we get sort of events and stuff back, then we'll get you involved in way more, because it's a minefield. But just to leave, just a few bits of advice and dating advice, and just advice for everyone, especially white girls and white guys out there at the moment in the dating scene and on the sexuality side of things. There's a lot of talk on addressing race and workplace and how to address it in day-to-day lives. But what advice, or a few just sort of tips, just a takeaway, would you give to people wanting to do better in the dating world and the sex world when it comes to, again, like we were talking earlier about not sexualizing black people, not having that better side of black women in particular? So just things that people can just think about, because I find once you plant the seed in people, they change the way they think a lot of the time, because you notice what you're saying and doing and go, shit, that's not right. That's not right.
For sure.
That's something we've said for years, which we thought was fine, but actually it's not right.
Right. So advice for people who who want to date black women.
Just dating, that's the thing, and that awkwardness at the moment, and being in the dating world and kind of not tiptoeing around and not wanting to tiptoe around without putting feet and not knowing what to say. And how they can do better, basically.
What I would say, for starters, don't tiptoe. Just as it's uncomfortable for you, it's more uncomfortable for your black friend or your black girlfriend or your black boyfriend. What I think a lot of black people want is support. It's like if someone asks me, how are you? And I go, yeah, I'm good. When someone then goes, no, but really, how are you? And I'm like, ugh, exhausted. It's not additional stuff, because I also don't want to put all my stuff on you. Because remember, black people have internalized this all our lives. I'm not going to message you all my trauma. Of course I'm not. But that additional, no, but really, how are you doing? Is important. I also think that there are resources out there for you to educate yourself. So if you are wanting to date, I don't know, black women, or you want to learn more about black women and our history and whatever, read, watch, ask questions. This is the thing, speak to your friends or your lovers who are black or Asian or people of color. There's no point having uncomfortable conversations with your fellow white friends, because that's still comfort. It's still comfort. Have these conversations with people of color, which is going to trigger something in you. But the thing is, if you are uncomfortable, you will really grow. That will give you some time to reflect on, my unconscious bias. When I mentioned to my friend earlier about how I said that when we were all growing up, there were no books with black kids in them. And she was like, I didn't even think about that. I'm like, well, this is what I'm saying. It's like, but she wouldn't necessarily think about that, because of course, we're living in a world where racism is the fabric of society. You wouldn't necessarily think about that, but you would only have to think about that if you spoke to someone whose experience of life is different to yours. So actually speak to people, ask questions. Don't expect people to educate you, But if you want to ask a black person,
Yeah.
how, what's your life been like? What is racism like? I've never experienced it before. I'm sure people would tell you, but don't expect any black person to educate you, because that's all we've been doing our whole lives. We don't want to do that anymore. And listen, don't listen to respond. Listen because you really care. I think right now a lot of black people, we just want a safe space to be able to talk about, the way we're feeling really freely. Just as people are tired of being allies and tired of posting, we are tired of experiencing it, damn it, So be kind, be gentle, listen, show some love, things like that are really important. And look, if you like black women, which I don't blame you, talk to them normally. Don't mention body. If you are thinking when you see a black woman, you start hypersexualizing them instantly. Check that within yourself. Well, why am I doing that? Where's that come from? Why do I hypersexualize black women? Really tap into your own bias, because no one else can do that but you. So tap into that, and that will reveal a lot. And then from there, you can really grow and start working on being anti-racist and start looking at black women as beautiful magic
as humans. That's yeah.
And that's it. But all it is, all it's down to is self-reflection. Just reflect on your life. Ask your family questions. Look around when you go on your Instagram. Go on the brands that you like. Are there any black people on there? What does your feed look like? Is your feed full of white people? Why is that? Unconscious bias. Tap into that. And that's what it is. Self-reflect and really look inwards. And when you look inwards, beautiful things can happen. So that's what I would say.
Cool. That was awesome. But that's the thing, is, so someone last year said, oh, you're all about like the future's female. And I said, no, I've never been about the future's female. Despite my company, I've always said the future's human. And that's how I see it. And it just, and that's how it should be. And, my mind's always been like that. So, and everyone's mind should be like that, whether it's, black, whether it's the female bias, there's so many different biases going on. It's just actually, who's in front of you. I fancy human. I fancy the person, the energy, the personality, that's it. Whether it's dating, whether it's in the workplace, hopefully by the time I die, it'll just be, we're just humans.
And you know what? I think we're all hoping for that. Maybe this won't happen in our lifetime, but if it means that it's easier for the other people that come after us, then brilliant. That means we've done a good thing on earth, and that's important. So, cool.
Well, listen, I'll let you go back to the fez, and I'm going to get back to a wine in the garden because the sweat at the top of the house is going. I'll see you on the other side.
Take care. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for watching.
Coming on. Bye.
Take care,
bye. She was awesome. That's one of those things you could just talk about for hours and hours and hours, and about everything and anything. So I'm sorry if there were bits that weren't covered that you thought might be covered. If you've got any questions, just fire them over and let us know. And also, if you come across anyone interesting that you think would make a good person to chat to, then send them this way, and we'll try and hook up and do a live with them. But I'm going to go and cool down outside because I think it's about 30 degrees up here. And I'll see you all next week. See you later. Bye.